PFC, Harry Sipress, United States Marine Corps, World War II. Folks, this is an extra special broadcast, extra special video interview that I did with a man who's no longer on this earth, but his memory lives forever. Harry is a World War II veteran, was a World War II veteran, served his country faithfully in World War II. I met him in Camp Pendleton, of all places, on the base at Camp Pendleton, California, where we premiered my film, The Battle of Iwo Jima. He was there at the premiere showing in 2005. So were other of my Southern California, and I had veterans coming from across the country to that showing. I actually premiered my Iwo Jima film at 29 Palms, the Combat Training Center in California, MCRD, the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot, and at Camp Pendleton. And that's where I did this interview with Harry. It's October 25th, 2005, the day after our premiere showing. And folks, he was in his early 80s at the time. He lived to be 93 years of age. I thought he lived forever. Passed away in 2016. I have a shot of his headstone. And just a great man. He's one of my extra special veterans. We spent time together. We got to know each other. I love his accent. He liked my accent, as it were, from New York. You'll hear it in the interview. And at the end of this story, after the salute, you got to watch for one more minute, because there's a clip that his wife Florence took of me and him after the premiere of my film, and captures a rare glimpse of him and myself at one of my premieres. So that's really close to my heart. Hope you enjoy it. But what can I say about Harry? He served with the 3rd Marine Division, 21st Marines on Iwo Jima as a machine gunner. Folks, can you hear this? Can you understand the history? This is a rare story. It's like, I don't take enough time. I just assume that you get it. But folks, this is a rare opportunity. And I tell you, with people trying to destroy history today in this country, people trying to erase the history that I'm showing you on this channel, it behooves us to share these stories with others and to understand. And a lot of you are getting it. A lot of you have been awakened. You're not woke. You've been awakened to the truth that's coming forth through these stories and why we have had our freedoms. And I say it like that because we're losing a lot of them. And people like Harry fought for this country, and I'm sure he would be rolling over in his grave today with all my other veterans with what's happening. I wrote a song a while back called Don't Dishonor Me. One of the lyrics is, don't dishonor me by losing your liberties. Folks, it dishonors these veterans that have served our country when we lose our freedom so easily. We're not going to give them away. I'm not going to give them away. I'm a Second Amendment guy if it gets down to that. Second Amendment protects the First. Amen? Okay, so listen, these stories, I'm just so excited. I just watched Harry's story. I don't normally watch the whole interview while I'm editing it, but I watched it. It's just so compelling. His tears, his emotions, and the way he tells the story, it's just amazing. I believe this will be one of my most powerful videos, and I hope you really share it with a lot of people about the history of our country, why we are where we are at today. And Harry just tells a great story. So I'm so proud of him. He's one of my heroes of all time. I'll see him in heaven, I believe, soon. And I'm glad that you can share this with others. And it took a special person. Steve and Abby Risso have stepped forward. They've sponsored some of my stories. Steve and Abby, thank you. God bless you. I'm just excited. I'm a little tongue-tied today because this is such a powerful story. But Steve and Abby, thank you for making it possible for others to hear about Harry, his service to our country, and just a great man that he was. None of my heroes ever called themselves a hero, but they're all my heroes. We're in a day where our young people are looking for heroes and role models. Folks, I found them in my veterans, you know. Like Roy Schneider said, baseball players aren't heroes. There's not a soul in Hollywood that's a hero. And I'll say this too, football players aren't heroes. But it's these men and women that have served our country and are serving our country. These men that have died on Iwo Jima, the tiny 8.5 square mile island that we took in 1945 because of the landing strips. We saved more air crew members than we lost Marines. The trade-off was difficult, but it was true. So anyways, I've been to Iwo Jima. I've walked the black sands of Iwo Jima. So as Harry tells the story, I was there in 2006 with the Marines. So, okay, I'm going to stop there. You all know the script. If you would like to sponsor a story, you know how to do that. If you want to donate to my work, you want to listen to Voices of History Radio 24/7. It's on the air. It's going strong, folks. These stories are being repeated. I just heard Gary Griggs talk today, and I heard Bruce Porter again. All these veterans, and I thank everybody. In my next broadcast, I will thank those who have sponsored this radio station, who have helped sponsor it. I'm going to call out your names on my next broadcast. I was going to do it today, but it's going too long right now. But you know who you are. God bless you. Thank you for all of you helping to make these stories available. Harry's story is golden. It's golden. Academy Award golden. And I just love this man, and we had a great time together. Him and his wife are both gone, but like I said, their memories live on forever. I like what Leonard Nimoy said. He said, perfect moments can be had, but not preserved except in memory. Thank God for our memories. Probably went in several days after D-Day.
Yes, I think the third day.
Harry, tell me what you remember about the night before you landed, where you were and what you were thinking. What do you remember about that?
We didn't know what the hell we would into, what was coming, and we actually were never prepared for it. We just went along. We did what we were told. That's how we were prepared for anything we did.
How old are you now? How old are you?
82.
So you were 21 maybe during Iwo Jima?
1945, 23, 22.
22? Young man.
He was 21.
You're a young man. Had you ever been in combat before?
No. Oh, yes, on Guam.
What did you know about Iwo Jima before you went there?
Absolutely zero. Not a thing. We didn't even know where the hell we were going.
What do you remember about the morning, getting up, and on the day that you actually landed? Were you apprehensive? Were you ready to go? How did you feel? Do you remember?
Apprehensive is a good word. We just took it as it came. You know, I was a lonely private, big deal, and we weren't told anything. We didn't know anything. We followed orders. And if you followed orders, like I always say, I was a good Marine. I followed orders, I did what I was told to do, and I did it well.
What was your actual job in the Marines at that time, in your rank?
Oh, PFC.
And you were, were you a rifleman?
I was a machine gunner when we went to rifleman in Guam, and then we went from the 9th Marines to the 21st Marines when we went to Iwo Jima, and I was a machine gunner.
Tell me what that meant. What was your responsibility? I mean, you set up a machine gun?
Well, it was like a 3-man operation. One guy carried the machine gun itself, one guy carried the tripod, and one guy carried ammunition, the rest. And we switched around.
I want to come back to that, but before I get to your job on the island, tell me about the landing. Do you remember if they were shooting at you when you landed? Did you go into the Higgins boats? Or?
When we landed, was, as I say, it was the third day. They really weren't shooting at us that much on the landing. The beach and a little further inland was pretty much secured. But I know everyone talks about the sand, the volcanic sand. No one ever mentioned, and I couldn't tell from the any pictures I've ever seen. We wore leggings, and they were laced up to almost up to our knees. So when we sank into that coral sand, coral rock actually. It didn't get into our shoes. We just sank in a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. Made the best of it.
Did you go in on a Higgins boat? Do you remember? Was it a Higgins boat? A landing craft?
A landing barge, yes.
You remember getting into those boats?
I remember climbing.
Tell me the story.
I remember very well climbing down that rope ladder. And I think all my life I've been pretty agile, because when I was a kid in school, I was in the gym in the tumbling class. You know, and I think, you know, I was always pretty good in that respect. I had no trouble climbing down, and I very easily waited for that barge, for the wave to come up, got right into it, no problem at all.
How about the ride into shore? Was it uneventful or what happened?
Uneventful as yes. And we actually, when you look at any newsreels or anything and you see pictures of it, it seems where you're quite able to see everyone in the landing barge. We weren't able to look out that easily. Well, what should I say? The sides were just a little higher. And all I know is there was one guy in the back who ran the boat, and I guess that's somebody in the front who gave him directions, but we saw nothing.
Had you heard any reports about how bad the Marines were taken at the first few days?
No, not at all.
So you're ready to go.
We were there, we were ready to go.
Tell me about the landing. Was it the ramp go down? You
Pretty uneventful. They were able to go pretty close to shore. We really didn't get that wet, you know, our shoes, feet, whatever. And we were able to go in, you know, a little bit off the beach. Like they said, you know, those, I forgot the word they used, those like cliffs, whatever they used. Terraces, whatever. So we went into maybe the second terrace or so. And
were there casualties on the beach when you were there?
Oh, there were casualties in the water, out of the water, all over. The landing craft, some of them were turned over, you know. It was holy hell. What we saw was the result of one mess. I mean, I have thoughts about the whole thing, but they're my thoughts. Keep going about it. You hear a lot where they say there were 7,000 Marines killed, approximately, but when we secured Iwo Jima, they say you saved approximately 21,000 Air Force personnel by landing there and not having to, you know, ditch in the ocean coming back from bombing Japan. Okay, so maybe it's worth it, 3-to-1 ratio. But when you're there and you see it, saving those lives mean nothing when you're in the middle of losing the lives. It's no picnic. It was no picnic.
After the war, Harry, did you forget it all or what?
I never forgot it all. Never. Not one day went by. I got out of the service on a medical discharge. In those days, they called it psychoneurosis anxiety. Today, I unfortunately have post-traumatic stress disorder, rated at 100%. And I had my plenty of sessions with with shrinks.
Sure.
But the guy was very nice. I don't like to use the word shrink. He was a very nice man, and I liked him. And his first name was Jeffrey, and younger than I was naturally, and he reminded me of my son. So I got along very well with him. But they always wanted me to go into this classes, you know, and to listen. I should listen to your stories, and you should listen to my stories. I never could take that. I did it once, wasn't for me, and I told them so, and I was never forced or coerced into going back again. I made my weekly visits to the psychiatrist's office and spoke to him, and everything was fine.
Tell me about your job on the island of Iwo Jima. I want to know what you work with a machine gun as a platoon, or is it just a group? What do you call that? Group?
Machine gun squad.
Okay. You would set up your machine gun, and then what are you shooting at?
You're shooting at Japanese when you saw them.
Did you see any?
I saw two, and by that time, what gave me the worst time ever, the guy that was, I was, at that time, before then rather, I was carrying ammunition, and two guys, the machine gun was set up, and my friend McCracken was firing the machine gun, and a shell, I guess a mortar shell probably, landed right between his knees. We were laying down. I mean, the whole time we were there, as close to the to the ground as you can get, or below it. That's what we tried to do. So he had there's a shell landed right between his knees, and his legs were just hanging maybe by a little skin, each one. And I tried to tourniquet, whatever, to tie up his thighs. We still had our full packs and our blanket wrapped around it. I used my blanket, I cut it, ripped it, whatever, and you know, it's material. It's not really like a leather belt or a good tourniquet. I tried the best I could, and unfortunately, I had to leave him there. I found out later on in, what was it, the magazine, the Leatherneck, they always had at the end of it, or a list of casualties. I saw his name there, that he didn't make it. And that's what brings this on. I got older, but he never did. I remember him as whatever I was, 19 years old, kid, and I got older. And that instance, that whatever is, I think, what started me going nuts. And I don't know what the hell I started. I don't know what happened to me. I know of some things that I saw when I was on the island. Okay, you asked me before about the machine gun. So when he left the squad, I was the machine gunner. And ahead of us at one point, when you say how many Japs, I saw two. There was like two little hills and a little gully between them, and I happened to see two guys run across from one to the other, and I fired at them. And it wasn't that big an area, so even if I hit them, they would have, fallen and made it. So I cannot say I killed any Japanese. I fired at them.
Now, were you on the island the whole 36 days?
I don't know if it was 36, but I think it was over 20.
Okay. So this was your job the whole time, was setting up the machine gun? Who ordered you around? What was your rank again, private? So who was telling you to go here and here and here?
Somebody yelled, and you went.
And your targets, for the most part, were just puffs of smoke?
Whatever. They talk about all the caves and you really didn't see many. You didn't see many Japanese military soldiers, whatever. And I don't know how long it was that I must have started roaming around the area. And nobody ever heard me say this before. But I definitely remember seeing a tent. And I walked up to the tent and looked in the window, and it was like an operating room. I saw a guy laying on a table, his stomach was all open, and I saw a guy picking out shrapnel from his body. Just for that one moment, I definitely remember seeing it. I don't know what the hell happened or why I saw it. I saw it. I don't know how long it took, how long it was. One day, I remember it must have been a Navy corpsman. Got a hold of me. I must have cracked up or something. And he brought me over. It must have been like a little station there, a medical, whatever. Who knows? Today it's a mass unit. You see it on television, what it is, whatever, 4077. It might have been, in fact, that tent that I saw might have been one of those. Anyway, this guy grabs me and brings me over to a cot, and he made me lay down, and he said to me, he says, "You're going home." I don't know why. I guess I was in pretty bad shape. I don't remember. And from there, the 20 days, whatever, I don't remember much of it.
Did you remember the flag raising? Did you see the
flag? I'll admit I did not see it. I wasn't aware of it. Now because I think, when we landed, we went up towards the airfields, and that was to our right. To our left was Mount Suribachi. So we really weren't looking back there. And when I use the word looking, all these guys came out of boot camp. You heard about that. I mean, you saw it. And they were replacements. And from boot camp, stupid, they sent them to Iwo Jima. So that they didn't like the idea of laying down flat. I'm laughing. They're dead. I'm laughing. They picked their head up to see what the hell's going on, and sure as shit, there was a bullet hole right in their forehead. They had to see what's going on. they didn't know what the hell was, where they were. Well, they'd never been in combat. I was only in once before, but once is enough to learn.
So
It was,
you were with your machine gun squad, basically. Okay, and that was it? Were there others with you or any support vehicles? Just that was, you guys were on your own pretty much then?
pretty much on your own.
Do you remember eating or sleeping or?
Sleeping, not much.
What would you do to sleep? How would you do that?
Exhausted.
Would you lay on the ground or in a tent or what?
Right where you were. Right behind a machine gun.
At night, were there a lot of flares and things going up or?
Not really. I don't think there was too much, no. As I say, I don't remember a lot of it. That is one thing I don't kid anybody. I don't know what happened to me.
You're there 20 days, and like you said, you left, and you don't have a lot of memory of what happened?
Only a certain brief memory, brief instances. I know at one time they were shelling us, and I got up, and they wanted me to get the hell out of there. You know, they were yelling to see what was wrong, if I was okay, and I wondered why. And I found out later, laying there on the ground, the front of my helmet was missing. Isn't that something? Never touched me. It had to be naturally a nice piece of shrapnel. It just took a little bit of the front of my helmet away. And that's why they thought that, you know, something was wrong, that I got hurt. It never, I don't know how it affected me up here, but physically, you know, it didn't earn me a Purple Heart. Let me put it that way, which I don't mind at all. And with what you hear and what you see and what you saw then, there's one word that's very seldom used: luck. And that four-letter word, to me, was everything. I was 10 feet away from McCracken. It was lucky he was there. The shell landed there instead of here. That's all. He didn't make it, but the other guy, his name was Crump, his last name. He got shrapnel. They took him away, and when I came back to the States, we came as a hospital contingent. We went to, what the hell was it? San Francisco, Naval Hospital in Oakland. That's where we went. I'm walking in the ward there, and I saw Crump laying in bed, a cast from his waist to his neck and his arm, and he had a breathing tube sticking out of his chest. He was breathing through that, and he had a rod from here to here to hold his arm up. He's laying down, but he was alive. And I just saw him once for a brief moment, and that was the end of that. But he made it.
Did you see any of the corpsmen working or?
Yes, you saw them running around. You saw the Red Cross on their helmets. Otherwise, I mean, they look the same as anybody else.
This question may sound kind of silly, but what's the sound of battle sound like? Like a 4th of July display?
Like a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you say. Yes, everybody said they were scared. Yes, you're scared shit. That's the phrase to use. It's not a dirty word. I know. Let me see. That when that guy put me on that stretcher, whatever. I know from there, we flew out of Iwo Jima. It was an old everything was, now you say it's an old. It was a DC-3, a red wing, a blue tail, a yellow fuselage. It looked like it was put together. We didn't care. Now, as I was boarding that plane, the guy in front of me was wearing McCracken's field jacket. You know, it had his name on it. And all these little incidents really beat the hell out of me. But I say, it set me back.
You probably already answered this question, but why do you think you survived and came back?
I was lucky. I always think that. And like, all right, I mean, you hear the same stories, a lot of people. Yeah, we took off from Iwo Jima, the Japs were firing at the plane that I was on. And yes, I saw those big B-29s landing there. I mean, you saw everything everyone else did. And you did everything that everyone else did. And I did everything, I did what everyone else did. When we got back to the States, we flew out of Iwo Jima, we went back to Guam. We stayed there in a little hospital area for about a week, and then we boarded a ship to come home. And we had one good feeling. They put us in officers' quarters, and they threw the officers out of their quarters, and they were mad as hell, and we were happy as hell, and we ate food for a change. So that was a good trip. And we came back to the States, and I don't know how, a day later, 5 days later, whatever it is, they all went to church to say thank you. And this little Jew here went to church with them. I followed them, I kneeled with them and everything. And yes, I said thank you. Because I was lucky. I use the word luck all the time because there was no skill. There's no skill to having him killed and you not. What other word can you use? And I went to church and I said thank you. It made me feel good.
Sure. So again, Harry, you were with the machine gun squad, and that was your job. And the Japanese were dug in the island. You didn't really see many of them.
Very, very few of them.
Were you involved with knocking out the caves or the tunnels with the flamethrowers and the hand grenades and the machine guns?
You fired at the caves, but there were other squads, like the last guy to go in, you had guys going up with explosives, hand grenades, whatever. Who knows, sticks of dynamite, I don't know what, they were just throwing stuff in there. And once they blew up the entrance to the cave, then the flamethrower went in. And unfortunately, I always looked at it differently. They should have backed up a gasoline truck, dumped a few 100 gallons of gas in there and just lit it. Which is a little impractical. But to me, that's the only way that you could have gotten to them. They were so far down. The flamethrower didn't go into the cave that much. He secured the outside of the cave. And I got to give them credit because they were just standing there with the flamethrower. They had no protection whatsoever.
So you witnessed a lot of this.
Witnessed it every day.
The Marines.
You witnessed it every day. You just went as far as you went to whatever it was the same thing over and over and over again every day. The same thing. The same thing.
Well, and I guess that's the way that they got rid of all of them, over 20,000 of them. I mean, it's going from cave to cave.
I mean, well, I don't know. I go back to my original thought, 7,000 for 21. It's good odds, yeah, but it's not good odds being there.
Let me throw in a question here that's going to kind of, we'll come back to Iwo Jima, but the news media today is making a big deal out of almost 2,000 dead in Iraq, okay, over a couple of years.
Right, it was in the paper today.
How do you compare that to the 7,000 killed in just 36 days on Iwo Jima, the 400,000 killed in World War II, and what the media is trying to do? How would you put that in comparison to what's happening today with World War II?
It's not a campaign in Iraq. We're there, and well, let's say, okay, we'll start with the campaign in Iwo Jima. You're here and they're there, and you're fighting each other. The same as they did in Europe. You saw them, you fired at them. You had 20 people to 5 of them. Naturally, you're going to win, or 99% of the time, you're going to win. But in Iraq, I mean, they got these. Well, I don't want to go into too much to it, but they got these insurgents, they call it. Every day in the paper, the second page, same thing. This car blew up here, this car blew up here, and suicide bombers and all that. You can't stop that because they got a whole, as much room as they need behind them. They're not fighting you man to man. It's not a war to me. It's not a war.
I guess the point of the media maybe is just to say we lost 2,000 troops. That's terrible, but look at what happened in 36 days on Iwo Jima. There were over almost 30,000 casualties with the injured.
It's unbelievable. If you laid down 7,000 bodies, you would cover the whole island of Iwo Jima, and they were laying all over the island. From the first day you got there, it's not nice to say. You just saw it and you ignored it because you had your job to do. They had their job to do. Unfortunately, they did it to the end. And I don't want to keep using the same word over and over again. I was lucky.
What does Iwo Jima mean to you today, Harry, 60 years later? What does it mean to your life today?
It means to me that it ruined me. Now, McCracken was a very dear friend of mine. I didn't know him that long. He was a big Iowa corn man, He was a big fella. I was one of the smallest guys, if not the smallest guy in our outfit, and the only Jew in the outfit. And I was his Jew, I don't mind saying it, I was his Jew boy friend, buddy. And I liked that. We got along very well, and I'm surprised. My eyes are dry right now. But
what is Iwo Jima? I think you probably already answered it, but just looking back 60 years, let me ask you this. Do you think it's important that we remember what happened in World War II?
yes, it was important to remember what happened in World War I, and what the hell good did that do? So there's no such thing as the war to end all wars. That they like to use that phrase. Doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Because any country right now can, without our knowing it, can start. There's no big deal. They can't stop these insurgents over in Iraq, where a guy like me can say, well, what the hell is it? You go after these people, why can't you find them and get rid of them? Because you got to take over the whole country and the country next to it, and it's a war all over again. But meanwhile, it's not a war. I don't care what you call it, police action or whatever.
Tell me about the camaraderie of the Marine Corps and what you experienced.
There's nothing greater than the camaraderie in the Marine Corps. I don't talk about it at home. You know, for years and years, even my wife didn't know what I did on Iwo Jima. What she's hearing now, she's hearing for the first time, some of it. Like a fellow I met yesterday when we went to see that movie, his son was with him. He was in the same outfit I was in. And his son said, for 55 years, he never, ever, ever mentioned the word Iwo Jima. It's only 5 years ago that he was able to admit that he can talk about it. I have seen McCracken every night for 60 years. I see him laying there, tying up his legs, and then I see his jacket on somebody in front of me. But the guy probably got his ripped off or something, and you use whatever you can.
Why do you think some men have waited so long to talk? Why all of a sudden start talking about it?
Because you can't. It affects you. I'm not that good with words. It affects you tremendously. I mean, from a scale of 1 to 10, I would rank it as 100, how it affects you. And who the hell wants to walk around with wet eyes all the time? I don't want... At one point, I just didn't want to let people see me. Now, I don't mind it as much. Even at home sometimes, you know, we're kibitzing. I'll use that's a nice word instead of the other word. We're kibitzing, you know, there's people in the house or whatever, and, well, let me put it this way. Years ago, like I got a brother 2 years older than me, was in Europe and Africa in the army, and I got a kid brother who was in the Coast Guard years later, and I never ever got involved in war stories. That's the phrase, the war stories. Never ever was willing to engage in that type of conversation. And I still don't much, very little. I don't need it. I'll never get to the point where it'll be behind me. I mean, it's behind me. Naturally, it's been a long time ago. The actual incidents and everything is behind me. But this will never be behind me. And I don't mind it anymore. I've lived with it. I take it. I see now. I can smile now, and I can cry and smile at the same time. It's so long already, I'm used to it. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't make me feel any worse. I'm all right.
You think it's getting older has something to do with that, or what do you think?
No. It's just getting older. It's nothing. You still have the same thoughts, not as much or as bad maybe, but it's still bad, and it's still much. So why did I say not as much, not as bad, and then I say it's still bad and it's still much? I think you just get a little used to it, and you learn to accept the fact that this is I learned to accept the fact that this is what I have to live with, and this is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. So why should I suffer when I know I'm going to have to live with it? Live with it and accept it.
What does this country and the American flag mean to you as a veteran?
What does
this country and the American flag mean to you as a
the
veteran?
country and the American flag is wonderful, and naturally, everybody says the same thing. It's a good country. It's wonderful. I'm glad I'm here. And there was one remark I heard recently. Someone said, "How do you like living in this country, or what this country is giving you? You know, how it affects you?" And he said, "I don't know. I never lived outside of this country, so I never experienced the other side."
What does freedom mean to you? Is that the question you were talking about?
Freedom? Yeah. Freedom.
You don't know because we never not had it.
We fought for freedom, right? That was the phrase the guy says. He never was, he never was without it. But when I heard it, it was very, very good. Very good to hear it. Very interesting little remark, and it was true. If you never witnessed it, you don't know from it. Unfortunately, too many of us witnessed World War II. And, they say this war was terrible, it was horrible. I don't care. The poor guy over in Europe, he was here, they went to a city, the Germans were there shooting at them, and they were shooting at the Germans. It was no better over there. Maybe it was more spread out, whatever, it wasn't so close-knit infighting. But you got killed over there too, and I don't say I suffered or my campaign was any worse off than theirs. Maybe a little intense, if that's the right word, closeness, whatever. But war is war, and that's it. And I had enough of it. Yeah. I'm laughing. I don't laugh much, believe me. I cry a lot.
So now, how many kids do you have? How many children do you have?
I have 3 children.
So they know nothing about your war experiences, or?
5% of what I've just said.
Is that because they weren't interested, or you?
No, they were interested. Harry didn't have a big mouth. Harry couldn't talk about it. Having a big mouth had nothing to do with it. I couldn't talk about it. I don't want to talk to my kids and cry. I'm their father. I'm the big hero. They asked me, in fact, the favorite expression, what did you do, in Iwo Jima when you were there? Hiding behind the biggest rock I could find. Quote, unquote, that was my answer. I mean, said it kiddingly and all that, but that's all I wanted to tell them. They know nothing. They knew nothing, they know nothing. They knew where I was. My parents knew where I was.
Do you consider yourself a hero, Harry?
I'm not a, no, I'm not a hero. I'm a lucky guy. I don't want, I keep using that word because that's the only word that fits. That's all. I mean, in this foxhole or that foxhole, what's the difference? He gets killed and you didn't. What word can you use? Certainly there's no skill to that. I was lucky. But I paid for it. Believe me, I paid for it these 60 years. For years and years, I thought of looking up to where McCracken might have lived and going there and seeing his parents and telling him how he died. But I couldn't do it. I didn't want to go to somebody who lost their son. And okay, I mean, it's not my fault or their fault, and say, look, he got killed, and I'm here to talk about it. But to go there and talk to them and cry, they cried enough. For years and years, I wanted to do that, but I wouldn't do it. They suffered enough, and I don't think I would make them feel any better. To describe how his legs looked and how he was bleeding. They don't have to hear that. They can think all they want of how their son got killed. They don't have to be told. Never, never, never.
Getting back to that question about the 2,000 killed in Iraq, this, to date.
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair for the media to compare that to the over 400,000 killed during World War II, which they probably don't even know? I mean, I think what they're trying to do is justify why we shouldn't be there or whatever. I mean, why are they making a big deal out of the 2,000 people? I mean, every life is important, don't get me wrong. It's just they're saying, well, 2,000 people have died in Iraq, and yet look at what happened in World War II.
Why are they doing it?
It's like they're
The
counting.
newspapers, to sell newspapers, the TV stations, to get a better rating. They have no feelings. They don't give about anything except making money out of it. That's how I feel.
I agree.
Because I mean, what is it to them? It's nothing to them. It's a headline in a paper. You sold another 10,000 papers today? Good, we made more money. Everything, well, I don't want to get into that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Do you by chance have a picture of McCracken, or do you?
No picture of McCracken. No.
Okay.
First of all, my life in the Marine Corps was rough, and it was a bitch because we never got anything. We were the dregs of the earth as far as they're concerned. What was it? A year and a half close to 2 years, never had a day's leave. That's another story. You want to hear a story?
Maybe off the record here.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question. What do you want people to remember you for when you leave someday? I mean, when you pass away, what do you want your life to be remembered for? What do you want people to remember about you?
He was a nice guy. Certainly nothing to do with the military career or anything like that. All right, I have a son now. He would be interested in what I did and all that. And he has no souvenirs or anything like that. Oh, talking about souvenirs, when I left Iwo Jima, I wanted to bring my helmet home. The one that was damaged, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I came home practically bare ass.
You've never gone back to Iwo Jima, have you?
No, I wouldn't go back. Right now, it's a Japanese island again, and to this day, the very word Japanese does not agree with me. It just doesn't agree with me, period. There's no way that I would ever be forced to eat in a Japanese restaurant because I tried to kill their grandfather, probably. And if I didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Is there anything else about Iwo Jima that you want to tell me today that maybe I didn't ask you? Maybe before you came you thought of something? You seem like you covered it pretty good.
Well, I don't talk about it as much as other people do. I was there. I saw everything. I was involved in a lot of it. And it's over. I mean, everybody did the same thing. Everybody wanted to survive. Everybody felt sorry for their best friend who didn't make it. And everybody cried. There's no goddamn hero who went through it all with a big smile on his face and enjoyed it.
When you look at the young Marines on the base and then you maybe think about yourself, or do you see them being any different than you 60 years ago?
No, they're Marines. Good for them. Although they get a lot more. Well, I think they'll have a lot more advantages, I think, today than we were able to get. And and the people coming back from overseas are getting a lot more consideration. I go to the VA hospital quite often, and everything there is Vietnam War veterans, and now Iraqi people coming home. They understand them much better. They understand their problems much better, and the care that is offered them is much greater and more easily accessible than it was years ago. I'm not interested in me. I wouldn't say that. But little things, well, that involve me that wouldn't interest somebody else.
Well, you kind of summed it all up, Harry. It's with you every day of your life.
That, yes, but see, now I don't talk about it like these guys do. We didn't go through it. I didn't anyway, like other guys did. Well, whatever. It's like I say, it's over. And the older I get, maybe I feel a little better about it. But see, now I don't talk about it like these guys do. We didn't go through it. I didn't anyway, like other guys did. Well, whatever. It's like I say, it's over. And the older I get, maybe I feel a little better about it because I've learned to live with it a little bit better. But live with it, yes, every day.
What does freedom mean to you?
It means I can do basically whatever I want. And nobody's watching over me.
What about the price for freedom? What would you tell a young person about the price for freedom?
It's very costly. Very costly. I mean, when you say, there's 10 million people living here and a few 100,000 got killed, the ratio really, is nothing. Like I compared, the 7 to the 21. But when you're part of it, it's something. And I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I thought of, when I got discharged, it was from the Newport. We went from California, we went to Newport, Rhode Island, Newport Naval Hospital. Stayed there 6 months. And when we left the place, a little speech in an auditorium, whatever, as we walk out the door, there's a desk with a couple of New York State troopers there wanting to recruit ex-Marines. Well, I took an application. I would have loved to do it. I got home and mentioned it to my mother. And in Jewish, she said, I had enough shooting. And there went the application. I could never rejoin the service because of my disability. But I'm alive, I have a family, I have a very loving wife. She puts up with me. And we move along, and that's it. You don't forget, but you don't dwell on it. You dwell on it at night when you're in bed.
Well, I think we did it.
There's demons in your head every day.
But you get used to anything and everything. I mean, people lose members.
He didn't get all that disability for nothing. He's free every day.
People lose members of the family. You get over that eventually too. You remember it, yes. Like my older brother lost a son and was 50 years old, Roger? It affected him. It still does, and I'm sure. But your life goes on. You may not live it as nicely. You can live it nicely, but you still know that you lost a son.
I'm going to ask you to do one more thing for me, and you saw my film yesterday, so when I ask you this, but I'd like you to give me a salute into the camera when I tell you when.
Yes, sir.
And here, I want you to look into the camera and give me a salute, sir. Go ahead.
Here today with my friend Harry. I like the way he says Larry.
Harry.
Where are you from, Harry?
I live right here in San Diego.
Originally.
Originally back on the East Coast, a place called
I could tell it was East Coast.
Long Island.
Island?
No, Long Island. Long Island.
Harry is going to be
I'm
in
gonna be
a
interviewing Harry tomorrow, is it Harry?
Tomorrow morning,
Harry's going to be in a documentary that Larry Carpetto is going to be
I'll
making.
donate a few tears to the scene. And I just don't know, after watching this movie today, what the hell can you say about Iwo Jima that hasn't been said today?
That's why I'm interviewing you tomorrow, because you're going to say it.
Okay.
I'll say it.
Maybe you can interview me tomorrow. How's that?
Okay, we'll do it on film.
We'll have a great time.
I'd like to say hi to all the grandkids.
Okay?
That'd be very good. That would be very
To
good.
remember this occasion by.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Larry,
Well, I want you to be
for
around.
what you did.
Thank you. I want you to be around another 20 years.
Oh, he could be.
And then I'll catch up to my old man.
No, his father was almost 100.
I'll see Harry tomorrow.
Yes, you'll see Harry tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Interview with Tom Brokaw.